Chapter 13. The Alphabet, a Mirror to Life. The second day, the companions realized that living in the janitor's room was no longer feasible. Tikhon grumbled, completely bewildered after seeing the nobleman first with a black mustache, then a green one, and finally with no mustache at all. There was nothing to sleep on. The janitor's room reeked of rotting manure, a scent emanating from Tikhon's new felt boots. The old boots sat in the corner, not exactly freshening the air either. "I declare the evening of reminiscences closed," said Ostap. "We need to move to a hotel." Ippolit Matveyevich flinched. "We can't do that." "Why not?" "We'd have to register." "Passport not in order." "No, the passport's fine, but my last name is well known in this town. It'll cause gossip." The concessionaires fell silent, pondering. "How do you feel about the name Michelson?" Ostap asked unexpectedly with a flourish. "Michelson like the senator?" "No, a member of the Soviet Trade Employees Union." "I don't understand you." "That's because you lack technical skills. Don't be a simpleton." Bender pulled a union card from his green jacket and handed it to Ippolit Matveyevich. Konrad Karlovich Michelson, 48 years old, non-party member, single union member since 1921, a highly moral individual, a good acquaintance of mine, practically a friend to children. Though you don't have to befriend any children, the police won't require it. Ippolit Matveyevich blushed. "But is it proper?" "Compared to our concession, this act, though technically a crime, is as innocent as a child's game of tag." Vorobyaninov still hesitated. "You're an idealist, Konrad Karlovich. You're lucky. Otherwise, you might have to become some Papa Kristozapulo or Zlovanov." Quick agreement followed, and the concessionaires slipped out onto the street without saying goodbye to Tikhon. They checked into the Sorbonne furnished rooms, owned by the Regional Housing Authority. Ostap stirred up the entire small staff of the hotel. First, he inspected the 7-ruble rooms but was dissatisfied with their furnishings. He liked the decor of the 5-ruble rooms better, but the carpets were threadbare, and the smell was offensive. The 3-ruble rooms were fine except for the paintings. "I can't live in the same room with landscapes," said Ostap. He had to settle for a room costing 1 ruble and 80 kopecks. There were no landscapes, no carpets, and the furnishings were strictly minimalist, 2 beds and a nightstand. "Stone Age style," Ostap remarked approvingly. "And do you have any prehistoric animals living in the mattresses?" "Depends on the season," replied the sly hall porter. "If there's a regional congress or something, then of course not, because there are a lot of guests, and we do a big cleaning before they arrive. But at other times, it does happen that they come running in from the neighboring Levadia rooms." That same day, the concessionaires visited the Regional Housing Authority, where they obtained all the necessary information. It turned out that the housing department had been dissolved in 1921, and that its extensive archives had been merged with the Regional Housing Authority's archives. The great schemer took charge. By evening, the companions knew the home address of the archive manager, Varfolomy Korobinikov, a former clerk in the mayor's office, now a white-collar worker. Ostap donned his worsted vest, beat the dust out of his jacket against the bed frame, demanded 1 ruble and 20 kopecks from Ippolit Matveyevich for representation expenses, and set off to visit the archivist. Ippolit Matveyevich remained at the Sorbonne and paced anxiously in the narrow space between the 2 beds. That evening, bleak and cold, the fate of the entire enterprise was being decided. If they could obtain copies of the orders for the furniture confiscated from the Vorobyaninov mansion, the case could be considered half won. Further on, there would be unimaginable difficulties, of course, but they would have a thread to follow. "If only we can get the orders," whispered Ippolit Matveyevich, collapsing onto the bed. "If only we can get the orders." The springs of the broken mattress bit him like fleas. He didn't feel it. He still had no clear idea of what would follow the receipt of the orders, but he was sure that then everything would go smoothly. And you can't spoil porridge with butter, he thought. And a big pot of porridge was being brewed. Consumed by rosy dreams, Ippolit Matveyevich tossed and turned on the bed. The springs beneath him bleated. Ostap had to cross the entire city. Korobinikov lived in Gusist, a suburb of Stargorod. Gusist was mainly inhabited by railway workers. Sometimes a puffing locomotive would pass in reverse over the houses on an embankment enclosed by a thin-walled concrete fence. The roofs of the houses would be lit for a second by the blazing fire of the locomotive's firebox. Sometimes empty cars would roll by, and sometimes firecrackers would explode. Among the shacks and temporary barracks stretched long brick buildings of damp, still unfinished cooperative houses. Ostap passed a brightly lit island. The railway club checked the address on a piece of paper and stopped at the archivist's house. Bender rang the bell with the raised letters, "Please crank." After lengthy inquiries of "Who is it and what do you want?" they opened the door for him, and he found himself in a dark hallway cluttered with cabinets. Someone was breathing on Ostap in the dark but saying nothing. "Where is Citizen Korobinikov?" asked Bender. The breathing person took Ostap by the hand and led him into a dining room lit by a hanging kerosene lamp. Ostap saw before him a small, meticulous old man with an extraordinarily flexible back. There was no doubt that this old man was Citizen Korobinikov himself. Ostap pulled out a chair and sat down without being invited. The old man looked fearlessly at the presumptuous guest and remained silent. Ostap politely began the conversation first. I'm here on business. Do you work in the Regional Housing Authority archive? The old man's back moved and bent affirmatively. And before that, did you work in the housing department? I've worked everywhere, said the old man cheerfully. Even in the mayor's office. Ostap smiled gracefully. The old man's back twisted for a long time and finally stopped in a position, indicating that service in the mayor's office was a long time ago and that it was positively impossible to remember everything. May I ask what I owe the pleasure? Asked the host, looking at the guest with interest. You may, replied the guest. I'm Vorobyaninov's son. Which one? The marshal of the nobility. Him. And is he still alive? He's dead, Citizen Vorobyaninov, passed away. Yes, said the old man without much sadness. A sad event, but it seems he didn't have any children. He didn't, Ostap kindly confirmed. Then how? It's nothing, I'm from a morganatic marriage. Are you Elena Stanislavovna's son? Yes, exactly. And how is she? Mama's been in the grave for a long time. Oh, how sad. And for a long time, the old man looked with tears of sympathy at Ostap, even though he had seen Elena Stanislavovna at the market today, in the meat section. Everyone dies, he said. My grandmother, too, lived too long, but allow me to ask, what is the matter, esteemed? I don't know your name. Valdemar, Ostap quickly supplied. Vladimir Ippolitovich. Very good, so, I'm listening, Vladimir Ippolitovich. The old man sat down at the table covered with patterned oilcloth and looked into Ostap's eyes. Ostap expressed his grief for his parents in carefully chosen words. He was very sorry that he had intruded so late into the home of the highly respected archivist and caused him trouble with his visit, but he hoped that the highly respected archivist would forgive him when he learned what feeling had prompted him to do so. I would like, Ostap finished with inexpressible filial love, to find something from Papa's furniture to preserve his memory. Do you know who the furniture from Papa's house was given to? It's a complicated matter, replied the old man, thinking. Only a wealthy person could handle it. And what do you do, if you don't mind me asking? Freelance, I own a meat-packing plant on cooperative principles in Samara. The old man looked doubtfully at the green attire of the young Vorobyaninov, but he didn't object. A quick young man, he thought. Ostap, who by this time had finished his observations of Vorobyaninov, decided that the old man is a typical scoundrel. So, said Ostap. So, said the archivist, it's difficult but possible. Will it require expenses? Helped the owner of the meatpacking plant. A small sum. Get to the point, as Maupassant said. The information will be paid for. Well, put down 70 rubles. Why so much? Is oats expensive these days? The old man rattled softly, wiggling his spine. You're joking. Agreed, Papa, money for orders. When can I come by? Do you have the money with you? Ostap readily patted his pocket. Then come right now, said Vorobyaninov solemnly. He lit a candle and led Ostap into the next room. There, besides the bed on which the host obviously slept, stood a desk littered with accounting books and a long office cabinet with open shelves. Printed letters were glued to the edges of the shelves, A, B, C, and so on, up to Z. Bundles of orders tied with fresh twine lay on the shelves. Wow, said the admiring Ostap, a complete archive at home. Completely complete, replied the archivist modestly. You know, just in case. The housing authority doesn't need it, but it might come in handy for me in my old age. We live, like on a volcano. Anything can happen. Then people will rush to look for their furniture, but where is it, the furniture? Here it is, in the closet. And who saved it, who protected it? Vorobyaninov. Then the gentleman will say thank you and help the old man in his old age. And I don't need much, they'll give me 10 rubles for each order, and thank you for that. Otherwise, go try to find the wind in the field. They won't find it without me. Ostap looked at the old man with delight. A wonderful office, he said. Full mechanization, you're a hero. The flattered archivist began to introduce the guest to the details of his favorite business. He opened thick accounting and distribution books. It's all here, he said, all of Stargorod, all the furniture, who took it when, who was given it when. And this is the alphabetical book, A Mirror of Life. Whose furniture are you interested in? The merchant of the first guild, Angelov. Please, look at the letter AA, AC, AM, and Angelov. Number, here, 82,742. Now the accounting book here, page 142. Where is Angelov? Here is Angelov. Taken from Angelov on December 18, 1918, a Becker grand piano, number 97,012, a soft stool for it, 2 desks, 4 wardrobes, 2 mahogany, 1 chiffonier, and so on. And who was it given to? We look at the distribution book. The same number 82,742. Given, a chiffonier to the Regional Military Commissariat, 3 wardrobes to the Lark Children's Home. and another wardrobe for the personal use of the secretary of the regional food committee. And where did the piano go? The piano went to Social Security, to the second house, and the piano is still there. I don't remember seeing such a piano there, thought Ostap, recalling the shy face of Alkin. Or for example, the head of the city administration's office, Murin. You need to look for the letter M then. It's all here, the whole city. Pianos are here, all sorts of chaise lounges, dressing tables, armchairs, sofas, poufs, chandeliers. Even sets of dishes are here. Well, said Ostap, you need to erect a monument not made by hands. However, get to the point. For example, the letter V. There is a letter V, Vorobyaninov responded readily. Now, VM, VN, Voritsky number 48238, Vorobyaninov, Ippolit Matveyevich, your father, may his soul rest in peace, was a man of great soul. Becker Grand Piano number 5,480,009, 4 Chinese vases, marked from the French factory Sevres, 8 Aubusson carpets of different sizes, a shepherdess tapestry, a shepherd tapestry, 2 Tekin carpets, 1 Khorasan carpet, 1 stuffed bear with a platter, a bedroom set, 12 pieces a dining room set, 16 pieces a living room set, 14 pieces walnut made by the master Gams. And who was it given to? Ostap asked impatiently. Getting there, a stuffed bear with a platter to the 2nd Police Precinct, the shepherd tapestry to the Fund of Artistic Values, the shepherdess tapestry to the Water Transport Workers Club, Aubusson Tekin and Khorasan carpets to the People's Commissariat for Foreign Trade, the bedroom set to the Hunters Union, the dining room set to the Stargorod branch of the Main Tea Administration, the walnut living room set in parts. Round table and 1 chair to the 2nd House of Social Security, a sofa with a curved back, at the disposal of the Housing Department, still standing in the front room, they've oiled all the upholstery, bastards, and another chair to Comrade Gritsitsayev as a disabled veteran of the imperialist war, according to his application and the endorsement of the head of the Housing Department, Comrade Birkin. 10 chairs to Moscow, to the State Furniture Museum, according to the circular letter of the People's Commissariat for Education, Chinese vases marked. I praise you, said Ostap, rejoicing. It's ingenious. It would be good to look at the orders, too. Now we'll get to the orders. To number 48,238, letter V. The archivist went to the cabinet and, rising on tiptoe, took out the required bundle of solid size. Here, all your father's furniture is here. Do you want all the orders? Where would I put them all? So, memories of childhood, the living room set. I remember playing in the living room on the Khorasan carpet, looking at the shepherdess tapestry. It was a good time, a golden childhood. So we'll limit ourselves to the living room set, Papa. The archivist lovingly began to straighten the bundle of green spines and began to search there for the required orders. Vorobyaninov selected 5 orders, 1 order for 10 chairs, 2 for 1 chair each, 1 for a round table, and 1 for the shepherdess tapestry. Do you see, everything is in order. Where everything is known. All the addresses are written on the spines and the recipient's own signature, so that no one can deny it if anything happens. Maybe you want General Popova's set? Very good, also made by Gams. But Ostap, moved by love exclusively for his parents, grabbed the orders, shoved them to the very bottom of his side pocket, and refused the general's set. Can I write a receipt? Inquired the archivist, bending nimbly. You can, said Bender kindly. Write it, champion of the idea. So I'll write it. Deal. He moved to the first room. Vorobyaninov wrote a receipt in calligraphic handwriting, and smiling, handed it to the guest. The chief concessionaire received the paper with extraordinary politeness with 2 fingers of his right hand and put it in the same pocket where the precious orders already lay. Well, bye, he said, squinting. I seem to have bothered you a lot. I don't dare burden you with my presence any longer. Your hand, head of the office. The stunned archivist weakly shook the hand offered to him. Bye, repeated Ostap. He moved to the exit. Vorobyaninov didn't understand anything. He even looked at the table to see if the guest had left any money there, but there was no money on the table. Then the archivist asked very quietly. And the money? What money? Said Ostap, opening the front door. You seem to have asked about some money. But how for the furniture, for the orders? My dear, sang Ostap, I swear to God, I swear by the honor of my late father. Gladly, but I don't have it. I forgot to take it from the current account. The old man trembled and stretched out his frail little paw, wanting to detain the night visitor. Quiet fool, said Ostap sternly. I'm telling you in plain Russian, tomorrow means tomorrow. Well, bye, write letters. Door slammed shut with a crash. Vorobyaninov opened it again and ran out into the street, but Ostap was already gone. He was walking quickly past the bridge. A locomotive passing over the viaduct lit him with its lights and covered him with smoke. The ice has broken, Ostap shouted to the engineer. The ice has broken, gentlemen of the jury. The engineer didn't hear, waved his hand. The wheels of the machine jerked the steel elbows of the cranks more strongly, and the locomotive sped away. Vorobyaninov stood in the icy breeze for 2 minutes and, cursing nastily, returned to his little house. Unbearable bitterness seized him. He stood in the middle of the room and began to kick the table in anger. The ashtray, made in the manner of a galosh with the red inscription triangle, jumped, and the glass clinked with the decanter. Never before had Varfolomy Korobenikov been so meanly deceived. He could deceive anyone, but here he had been swindled with such ingenious simplicity that he stood for a long time, banging his feet on the thick legs of the dining table. Vorobyaninov was called Varfolomych and Gusist. They only turned to him in case of extreme need. Varfolomych took things as collateral and charged usurious interest rates. He had been doing this for several years and had never been caught by the police, and now he, like a chick, had been caught on his best commercial enterprise, from which he expected great profits and a secure old age. Only one case in Varfolomich's life could be compared with this failure. About 3 years ago, when life insurance companies reappeared for the first time after the revolution, Varfolomych decided to enrich himself at the expense of the state insurance company. He insured his 102-year-old grandmother, a venerable woman whose age the entire Gusist was proud of, for 1,000 rubles. The ancient woman was afflicted with many senile diseases. Therefore, Varfolomych had to pay high insurance premiums. Varfolomich's calculation was simple and correct. The old woman could not live long. Varfolomich's calculations indicated that she would not live even a year. For a year, he would have to pay about 60 rubles of insurance money, and 940 rubles would be an almost guaranteed profit. The old woman did not die. She lived her 103rd year quite well. Indignantly, Varfolomych renewed the insurance for the second year. In the 104th year of her life, the old woman became significantly stronger. She developed an appetite, and the index finger of her right hand, twisted by gout for about 10 years, straightened out. Varfolomych was horrified to see that, having spent 120 rubles on his grandmother, he had not received a penny of interest on the capital. The grandmother did not want to die. She was capricious, demanded coffee, and one summer even crawled out to the Place de la Commune to listen to a newfangled invention, musical radio. Varfolomych hoped that the musical flight would finish off the old woman, who indeed fell ill and lay in bed for 3 days, sneezing every minute. The body won. The old woman got up and demanded kissel. He had to pay the insurance money for the third time. The situation became unbearable. The old woman had to die and still did not die. The 1,000-ruble mirage was melting. The deadlines were expiring. It was necessary to renew the insurance. Disbelief seized Varfolomych. The cursed old woman could live for another 20 years. No matter how much the insurance agent courted Varfolomych, no matter how much he persuaded him, painting seductive, God forbid, funerals of the old woman, Varfolomych was as firm as diabase. He did not renew the insurance. It was better to lose, he decided, 180 rubles than 240, 300, 360, 420, or maybe even 480, not to mention interest on the capital. Even now, kicking the table, Varfolomych did not stop listening to his grandmother's groans out of habit, although he could no longer derive any commercial benefits from these groans. "Oaks," he shouted, remembering the lost orders. "Now money only in advance. And how did I screw up like that? I gave away the walnut living room set with my own hands. The shepherdess tapestry alone is priceless, handmade." Please crank bell had long been cranked by someone's uncertain hand, and before Varfolomych could remember that the front door was left open, a heavy rumble was heard in the hallway, and the voice of a man entangled in the labyrinth of cabinets cried out, "Where do I go in here?" Varfolomych went out into the hallway, pulled someone's coat towards him to the touch drape, and led Father Fedor Vostrikov into the dining room. "Please excuse me," said Father Fedor. After 10 minutes of mutual understatements and tricks, it turned out that citizen Korobenikov really had some information about Vorobyaninov's furniture, and Father Fedor did not refuse to pay for this information. In addition to the archivist's greatest pleasure, the visitor turned out to be the brother of the former marshal of the nobility and passionately wanted to preserve his memory by acquiring a walnut living room set. The brother of Vorobyaninov had the warmest memories of his childhood associated with this set. Varfolomych asked for 100 rubles. The visitor valued the memory of his brother much lower, at about 30 rubles. They agreed on 50. "I would ask for the money in advance," said the archivist. "That's my rule." "Does it matter that I have gold coins?" Father Fedor hurried, tearing the lining of his jacket. "I'll take it at the exchange rate, at 9.5 today's rate." Vostrikov shook 5 gold coins out of the lining, added 2.5 in silver to them, and pushed the whole pile to the archivist. Varfolomych counted the coins twice, grabbed them in his hand, asked the guest to wait a minute, and went for the orders. In his secret office, Varfolomych did not think for a long time, opened the alphabet, a mirror of life, to the letter P, quickly found the required number, and took a bundle of orders from General Popova from the shelf. Rummaging through the bundle, Varfolomych selected one order from it, issued to Comrade Bruns, living on Vinogradnia, 34, for 12 walnut chairs from the Gams factory. Marveling at his ingenuity and ability to wriggle out, the archivist smirked and took the orders to the buyer. "Is everything in one place?" exclaimed the buyer enthusiastically. "1-to-1, everything is standing there, a wonderful set. You'll lick your fingers. However, why should I explain it to you? You know it yourself." Father Fedor shook the archivist's hand enthusiastically for a long time, and, hitting the cabinets in the hallway countless times, ran away into the night darkness. Varfolomych laughed at the duped buyer for a long time. He put the gold coins in a row on the table and sat for a long time, sleepily looking at 5 bright circles. Why are they so drawn to Vorobyaninov's furniture? He thought. They've gone crazy. He undressed, prayed to God inattentively, lay down in the narrow maiden's bed, and fell asleep anxiously. How's that? Did you want me to change anything?